Toronto police are offering $50,000 for information that leads to an arrest.
June 24th, 2022, a Canada-wide warrant for Kiarash Parzam was issued.
Parzam is charged in the shooting death of a 28-year-old man in North York. Plus,
travelers have experienced unacceptable delays, flight cancellations, lost luggage, and many more issues.
the federal government announces funding to help tackle the growing backlog of air passenger complaints. And
Asian youths are very vulnerable. There is a lot of things that are impacting them.
A new report documents the disturbing rise of anti-Asian racism in Toronto and across Canada. Toronto police are upping their efforts and asking for help to locate a man wanted on a first-degree murder charge. Police believe Kiarash Parzam may be hiding out somewhere in the GTA. Greg Ross has more.
Mr. Parzam has successfully evading arrest so far, but he will make a mistake sooner or later.
Police have not been able to find Kiarash Parzam since June 15th of last year. That's when he is believed to have shot and killed 28-year-old Kian Hosseini not far from the Young Shepherd subway station. Police are once again asking the public for help in finding Parzam.
On June 24th, 2022, a Canada-wide warrant for Kiarash Parzam was issued. This is a renewed appeal in partnership with the BOLO program for anyone with information in regards to the location of Kiarash Parzam.
The BOLO program, or Be on the Lookout, lists Parzam as number 4 on Canada's most wanted list. BOLO is a police initiative that uses technology and social media to track suspects wanted by police. In some cases, they offer cash rewards for information.
In cooperation with Toronto Crime Stoppers, the BOLO program is pleased to offer a new reward of up to $50,000 for any information leading to the arrest of Mr. Parzam.
Police say Parzam is about 6 feet tall and weighs around 180 pounds with dark hair. He also has several distinctive tattoos that police have now released pictures of on the BOLO website.
On his right-hand finger, right elbow, left upper arm, and right calf.
In the 5 years since it was created, the BOLO program has had success in arresting fugitives, including Abil Aziz Mohammed, who was apprehended just hours after being ranked number 1 on the most wanted list last April.
In the lifetime of the BOLO program so far, so 5 years, we've featured about 50 cases, 50, and we're at 18 arrests so far.
In addition to the $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of Parzam, police have also launched an ad campaign that will see Parzam's face posted on billboards and bus shelters around the GTA. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
A house fire in the Church Wellesley neighborhood early this morning has claimed the life of a 58-year-old woman. It happened at a rooming house with several people inside. Ontario's fire marshal is now investigating the cause. Ali Chiasson has the latest.
Firefighters were called here at 3:27 in the morning, but when they arrived, the fire was already out.
The fire alarm system was working at the time of the fire. Neighbors heard it and actually got the fire extinguishers and were able to extinguish the fire.
Sadly, the woman who lived in the unit couldn't be saved.
And they were able to take the occupant out of the unit that was inside. They were transported to the hospital and then they succumbed to their injuries and were pronounced dead.
The victim, we hear, is a woman, 58 years old, and a familiar face along Dundonald Street. Neighbors say she tended to some of the other rooming houses, helping with maintenance.
Very sweet lady, thinking she might have slept through it, because the fire alarms were working. Everything was the way it should be.
There are 17 units inside this rooming house. It's registered with the city and all up to code. In fact, it was inspected by the city just last month and no fire code violations were found. So the office of the fire marshal is on scene. They are investigating where in her unit the fire started and how.
Hopefully we'll have answers at the end of our investigation.
Toronto police were also combing through the scene and retrieving video. Due diligence in case foul play is suspected, though investigators say there are no immediate signs of that.
You saw her around?
Yeah, I saw her all the time.
Suspicious or not, this is a tragedy and neighbors are still shaken.
Out front of the building, they were trying to revive her. It was, chaotic.
You know, for a fatal fire, you can't really see any damage from the exterior of the house. And that speaks to how quickly this fire was contained thanks to the quick work of this woman's rooming house neighbors. We expect to hear more information about how this all happened later this week. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
The City of Toronto announcing plans today to tackle the housing shortage. Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey says the Housing Action Plan will bring major changes.
The Housing Action Plan begins the process of updating the city's regulations so we can meet or exceed the target of actually building 285,000 homes over the next decade.
McKelvey says the plan will remove exclusionary zoning, something she says has focused growth in just a few areas of the city. The plan will also leverage public lands to help unlock more housing supply. It will also allow for the construction of more multiplexes with up to 4 housing units. The plan will go before the Executive Committee next week. The federal government is spending millions of dollars to help tackle the growing backlog of air passenger complaints. Many stem from last year's travel chaos that saw flights delayed or canceled, with travelers stranded and baggage lost. Meg Roberts has reaction.
It's just no information's being given. We're just being screwed over on that. It's frustrating.
For these travelers, a canceled flight now leads to a slew of long layovers. It's a scenario that's all too familiar to many Canadians. In fact, the Canadian Transportation Agency, tasked with settling disputes between airlines and customers, is fielding more than 40,000 complaints.
Travelers have experienced unacceptable delays, flight cancellations, lost luggage, and many more issues.
At Pearson Airport today, the government announced it's going to spend nearly $80 million to solve the backlog that's piled up post-pandemic. The money will go towards hiring 200 new employees to solely work on answering complaints.
The asymmetry of power that airlines have over passengers, and that the government needs to do whatever it can to rebalance that power.
But some passenger advocates say the funding doesn't address that.
The government is putting the cart before the horses in first throwing money at a body instead of fixing the root cause.
The root cause, he says, is airlines being allowed to get away with poor service.
When an airline breaks the rules, they have to be automatically issued a fine. That fine is payable to the state, but that guarantees that the airline will not be breaking the law.
This advocate says the CTA's complaint decision process also needs to be simpler and quicker, so the government wouldn't need to hire so many employees.
At least the government is stepping in to kind of supplement what the airlines had to go through, because some part of it was because of COVID and the backlog that I had.
And should not be having to bail out these companies. If they screw up, they should be screwing up and they should be responsible for it. The government should stop bailing out companies that don't deserve it.
The Minister of Transportation says the government is working on a faster and more efficient system to manage complaints, and says people should stand by for another announcement. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Mississauga.
Meteorologist Jay Scotland joins us now with the first look at the forecast. And Jay, it was quite frigid out there today.
Well, Talia, it was a chilly one today. That wind chill, it was something. Up near the freezing mark across the region this afternoon, but felt well below. It felt closer to -10 even into the mid-afternoon today. And we will have some cooler weather as we look into the morning hours, the early morning hours tomorrow, with a brisk wind and a biting wind chill. Now, as we head into the overnight hours tonight, that ridge of high pressure continues to keep that clearing trend. That sky will continue to clear into tomorrow morning. That means a sunny start to the day across the lower Great Lakes and across the Golden Horseshoe. But that wind from the northwest still gusting upwards of 30, 40, even 50 kilometers per hour for exposed areas. So it's going to make it feel well into the minus teens into the morning tomorrow. But that sunshine will do its job. Daytime heating with wind easing through the afternoon. We'll see temperatures back on the plus side, 3, 4, 5, even 6 degrees possible, depending on if you're downwind of the water or not tomorrow. We'll enjoy those clear conditions through the afternoon. Clouds do begin to build late in the day on Wednesday. We'll talk about some soggy weather to round out the work week a little later in the show. So tomorrow morning, still a chilly start to the day, but a clear sky. That means when the sun does rise near 7:30 tomorrow morning, we'll see almost uninterrupted sunshine through the middle part of the day. Few clouds building in, but still mostly sunny by late afternoon. But look at that temperature. Starting out the morning -6. Ending the afternoon at around 5, 6 degrees for some areas. So certainly going to need to bring that warmer jacket in the morning, but dress in layers so you can try to stay a little cool with a more seasonal daytime high in the afternoon. Talia?
Thanks, Jay. The head of an immigration organization is facing multiple charges of sexual assault. Jose Mario Giambo is well known in the Colombian community in the GTA. Police say the alleged assaults happened multiple times when a woman went to his office for immigration consulting services.
What has been reported to us is that a woman went in to get professional services for immigration consulting. And between 4 different times of going for this consultation, between the end of February and the beginning of March, the allegations are that she was sexually assaulted and forcibly confined.
Giambo is the founder of Canadian Human Rights International Organization, a not-for-profit that says it monitors human rights abuses. He had his first court appearance earlier this month. Asian communities are calling on the province and the federal government to take action against anti-Asian racism. A new report takes a look at how it's affected members of Canada's Asian communities in a more personal way. Dale Manukduk has more.
It was nice to meet other people who had gone through similar experiences such as
Pak Ki Wong was one of 31 participants who took part in a new report looking at anti-Asian racism during the COVID-19 pandemic.
I'm a lot more aware of my surroundings now. You know, when I go into a space, I look around to see who's there.
Wong, who immigrated to Canada more than 30 years ago, says since the pandemic, he's been told to go home, spat at, and threatened on the train. It's experiences like these that the report from the Chinese Canadian National Council Toronto chapter and University of Toronto's Faculty of Social Work are looking at, from microaggressions to overt racism.
Go back to China where you came from.
Like in this video from a Mississauga grocery store in 2020.
There's a lot of number and about the incident of how interpersonal attack that impacted our community. But I think there's a lack of qualitative data.
We will not be silenced, we will not disappear, and we will not be isolated.
The rise of anti-Asian racism sparked rallies across the country. This one happened 2 weeks after the 2021 Atlanta mass shooting targeting and killing Asian women. Associate Professor Izumi Sakamoto notes that even many small instances can take its toll.
I deal with something racial every day.
Citing American comedian Margaret Cho's famous line, "Living in this country as a minority is like dying of 1,000 paper cuts."
So it's not that big of a deal to go to emergency room for, but if you get it 1,000 times every day, eventually it's going to break your soul.
Introduce motion number 63 on anti-Asian racism.
While it's been brought to the House floor for debate, Asian communities would like to see more done to address the issue. Many who participated in the research are hoping for an end to Wu Nai, which translates to hopelessness and helplessness.
It's heartening to know that even 3 years into the pandemic, 2 years anniversary of Atlanta shooting, we haven't seen enough concrete action item from the government.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. An award-winning, accessibility-focused documentary has officially been publicly released. 257 Down shares the story of a man who became a quadriplegic when his dirt bike landed on his head and broke his neck. Alex Abbott's friends and family help him realize his dream of once again riding on 2 wheels. And I had the chance to talk to him about his plans of raising awareness around accessibility.
This was the worst thing I could have ever imagined. I would have rather been dead than not be able to ride my motorcycle. Just turned 23 in 2010, and that was when I decided it was time to learn how to backflip. I was practicing in a foam pit, but the bike just landed on me the wrong way, and I ended up just taking the bike right to the face, and that's why I broke my neck.
There must have been some pretty low points for you in those early days.
It was like this depression and anxiety attack and a panic attack. All these things I'd never felt in my life before just hit me at once. And it all just stemmed because I was literally just in the bed and all I wanted to do was turn over, and I couldn't even do that for myself.
In the back of my mind, I was always thinking, I'll get on a bike again somehow. But also in the back of your mind, you're also realizing it might not be a very achievable goal.
Tell me a little bit about the documentary and why it was important for you to make it.
The 10-year anniversary was coming up of the the day I got injured. My friend David, I just asked him, he's got a background in filmmaking things. I said, would you mind just shooting a bit? And I just intended it to be for friends and families. And so he did. And then I guess he went home and said, I think I've got something here.
I've got osteoporosis and stuff like that, so a fall would not be very good for me, especially since my bike wasn't modified in any way.
What I was really most nervous about was this is one of those things that I had used to keep me going. Like one day I'm going to get on the bike again, one day I'm going to ride again. And now I was face to face with it. And it's like, if I fail, you know, what do I have to look forward to?
Alex, don't do it if you don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, that's right.
No
pressure, bro. Totally up to you.
This is baby steps, man.
That was...
And I remember thinking like, oh my God, you're riding your dirt bike again.
It's funny, you know, you'd think you'd be super emotional and all these feelings rushing back, and sure they did, but it was like in an instant. But then it was just like straight back to focus, and it almost just felt so natural as well. Ended up submitting it in festivals. So now that it's actually released to the public, we decided to put it up and also try to raise a bit of money for the Veterans Center. Another passion of mine.
Things that really helped me when I was in hard times was seeing what people went through during the wars.
I volunteered at the Veterans Center at Sunnybrook for 3 years. Great times. I miss all those guys dearly, and so I just want to give back a bit to them as well.
Tell me about what you're trying to pitch now and why it's important for you to have more images of people with disabilities in the mainstream media.
I'd always wanted to do a travel show based about traveling with a disability because it's tough. It's so much extra planning. There's so much more worries and anxiety about it. You know, maybe it'd be interesting to them to see that. I've got to pack catheters because this isn't the kind of thing you can just pick up at a store should you run out of them and you kind of need to pee. I also wanted to see, you know, battlefields, places like that I was interested in. And again, going back to the fact that a lot of these innovations that people with disabilities rely on came from the conflict. We are calling it the Battle Beyond. So it talks about the battlefields, but then what they faced when they came back after everything from, you know, quadriplegia, paraplegia, blindness, PTSD. So if it could just open up more people's eyes to just even the littlest changes that can be made, that would be the best thing we could take away from it.
What would you say to maybe someone who is young and facing a big challenge that they have to overcome now that you're, you know, almost on the other side of it?
You've got it in you to go a little harder, dig a little deeper. You've got that extra gear that's in there somewhere, and you can just shift into it, and you're going to push through. You're going to keep pushing. And learn to be patient, and things just will come up. And you know, I traveled a bit, and every time I traveled, I got more confident and felt better about it. Now, potentially, I can combine all those things as well as advocate for a better change. And access for someone like me, it's still going to benefit anyone, even yourself. Like, you don't have to be in a wheelchair to benefit from accessibility.
And there's a live look at the city skyline tonight, sitting at around -3 degrees after another chilly day. And Jay's back now with our extended forecast. Jay, hoping some warmer temperatures are in our future.
Well, it was a chilly one today. That temperature, Talia, should be in the afternoon topping out 4 or 5 degrees. It is March, after all. Didn't feel that way today. Temperature was cool. Wind chill. That was really adding to that misery if you're not a fan of the cooler weather. And we will continue to see pretty brisk wind through the overnight hours tonight. That wind coming in from the north-northwest. That sky will be clear. That allows that temperature to really cool off. Lose the cloud cover. It's like kicking the duvet off at night, nothing to trap the heat in. So we'll see a chilly temperature, still a bit of a biting wind chill tomorrow morning. But that wind does ease through the afternoon with a ridge of high pressure skirting just southwest of the lower Great Lakes, but certainly exerting its influence across southern Ontario. And we'll hold on to those sunny conditions through the afternoon. As that wind does ease, we'll see temperatures up 3, 4, 5 degrees for most areas. As we look to daytime highs, you head up the escarpment, Hamilton Mountain may even see a temperature of around 6 degrees into the afternoon tomorrow. It's not balmy, but certainly an improvement over today, and will be an improvement over the chilly start to your Wednesday tomorrow morning. We will watch for clouds to increase, though, Wednesday evening, and then as we approach Thursday morning, likely starting out with overcast conditions. Temperatures will be on the plus side. Warm front is kicking in, and we are likely to see some rain showers arriving late in the day on Thursday. May initially for more northern areas as you look up the Oak Ridges Moraine, for example, north of Durham. Up north of Toronto towards the Barrie area. Good chance, even Markham, some mixing initially before transitioning to some light rain showers. The steady rain, that will hold off until Friday. Could be falling heavy at times, 10, 20, 25 millimeters possible through Friday. So some heavier rain conditions on the way to round out the work week. Clear, cool, still windy tonight across the Golden Horseshoe. We will watch for wind chill values to feel into the mid-minus teens through the overnight hours and even early tomorrow morning, but do dress in layers. You can lose the thicker jacket as we get into the afternoon. Temperatures 3, 4, 5, even 6 degrees possible tomorrow with that sunshine holding with us through most of the day. Now, the clouds do build late in the day on Wednesday. Overcast with late day rain, maybe some mixing for northern and higher elevation areas Thursday night. Then the heavier rain Friday. Unfortunately, temperatures do cool off again as we get into the weekend, and that could mean a few more flurries falling across the GTA. Talia?
Thanks, Jay. The 2026 World Cup will be in North America, including here in Toronto, and we now know fans will be treated to even more games. It was confirmed today at a FIFA Council meeting that there will be 104 games instead of the 64 games that were played in the World Cup last year. The increase of 40 games will accommodate the expansion from 32 teams to 48, the biggest World Cup ever. Of course, some of those games will be played at BMO Field. Some critics worry the added number of games will tire out the players, despite adding some action for fans. Canada gets an automatic entrance into this World Cup as one of the host nations. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Chris Glover has your next local newscast tomorrow night at 6. And I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.